Does the sight of those purple glow lights spilling out of your neighbour's windows drive you crazy, along with the constant buzz of timers? It feels like you can't even grow a sprig of parsley these days without a specialised LED light. But what if I told you that most of that, especially when we're talking about simple green onions, is pure marketing hype? Throw those ideas out the window and get ready to save some serious cash. In this video, I'm going to reveal 3 tried and true but incredibly effective methods for getting juicy, crunchy scallions without any extra light whatsoever. No wasted electricity, no complicated equipment, just you, an onion bulb, and a little bit of common sense. And trust me, the results won't just surprise you, they'll make you completely forget about expensive plant gadgets forever. Ready to learn the secret our grandmothers used to keep fresh greens on the table year-round? Then listen up. Let's be honest, where did this belief that nothing will survive on the windowsill without a special lamp even come from? The whole issue is that we are confusing 2 completely different processes: full cultivation from seed and what is called forcing, or regrowth. When we plant a tomato seed, it absolutely needs a full spectrum of light for photosynthesis, for developing the root system, the stem, the leaves, and eventually the fruit. That is a long, energy-intensive marathon, but forcing green onions for their shoots, that's a sprint. We already have a fully charged battery, the onion bulb itself. It has already stored all the nutrients required to push out those first green shoots. Essentially, we aren't growing a plant from scratch. We are simply convincing it to give us the green mass it already has the energy for. Light certainly plays a role in the colour of the scallion, making it a deeper green. But for the actual initial growth process, it is not a critically important factor. And understanding this simple biological fact is the key that frees us from the necessity of buying those expensive lamps. Okay, method number 1, the most nostalgic and arguably the most famous, the water classic. I guarantee that almost everyone remembers seeing that setup at Grandma's house, a mayo jar or a simple glass sitting on the windowsill, proudly displaying an onion bulb surrounded by luscious green sprouts. There's something inherently meditative and deeply comforting about this method. It proves that you don't need high-tech gadgets for a small miracle. All it requires is water and a little patience. This approach is perfect for anyone seeking maximum simplicity and clarity. You literally get a real-time view of the growth, not just of the green shoots, but also the firm, white roots underneath. A process that is especially mesmerizing for children. It's not just about growing food, it's a living, interactive piece of kitchen decor. And best of all, the financial barrier is non-existent. You don't need to buy soil, special fertilizers, or expensive containers. Any glass or jar of the right size will work just fine. This method is a tribute to simplicity and efficiency, proving that nature is far smarter than any modern gadget. It's a vital reminder that achieving success sometimes means not overcomplicating things, but instead returning to the very basics, to the methods that have reliably worked for centuries. Now let's dive into the details. Picking the perfect bulb for its watery debut. Not every onion is equally suited for forcing green onions. The ideal candidate is a medium-sized bulb, firm, springy, and completely free of dents, mold spots, or any signs of rot. Why medium? A bulb that's too small will quickly deplete its reserves, resulting in a meagre harvest. Conversely, a bulb that is too large, especially in a narrow glass, tends to rot at the base due to poor air circulation. Make sure you feel the onion. It should be rock hard. But here is the key secret. Look for bulbs that are already awake. These are the ones where a tiny green sprout is already pushing its way out of the dry stem tip. That's your 100% guarantee of success. Such a bulb is already in the active growth stage and just needs a tiny push, which is the water. If you only have completely dormant onions from the supermarket, no worries. You can wake them up too. And one more critical point. If possible, avoid perfectly round bulbs. Slightly elongated or oval shapes often have multiple growth points, meaning you'll get far more scallions from them. This is a small hack that significantly increases your harvest yield from a single windowsill. Prepping the onion bulb is a crucial ritual that directly impacts the speed and quality of your harvest. We need to focus on two key steps here. The first, and arguably most crucial step, is the proper topping or trimming. Grab a sharp knife and gently slice off the very top tip of the bulb, about a ½ inch or so. Don't worry, you won't damage the bulb. Why do this? Firstly, you remove the dry, restrictive layers that prevent young shoots from breaking through easily. Secondly, as I mentioned, this cut signals the plant to get moving, immediately stimulating the growth of multiple new sprouts simultaneously. Step number 2 is preparing the root plate, or the base. Carefully peel off the top layer of dry, crinkly husk, especially around the foundation where the roots will emerge. This is crucial for preventing mold and rot, because when this specific layer of husk gets wet, it becomes an ideal breeding ground for bacteria. After these manipulations, we need to let the onion have a little wake-up bath. Simply place the bulb, root side down, into a small container of warm, but not hot, water for about an hour or 2. This soak helps fully activate the root system and prepares it for aggressive growth in your container. Think of this process like warming up an athlete before a race. They stretch and prepare to ensure peak performance. Let's move on to setting up the perfect home for your bulb. Choosing the right container and maintaining the correct water level are crucial. They account for 90% of success in this hydroponic method. The most common mistake beginners make is completely submerging the bulb. You absolutely must avoid this. The base of the bulb, that's the part where the roots sprout from, should only lightly touch the surface of the water. We are talking about just 1 or 2 millimeters of contact. Why is this critically important? If you submerge the bulb any deeper, it will simply rot within a few days due to a lack of oxygen. The developing roots require both air and water to thrive. Ideally, you should use containers with narrow necks. Think small vases, glass bottles, or specialized sprouting jars. These allow the bulb to sit comfortably on top, letting only the future roots dangle into the water. If you only have a regular cup or a wide-mouthed jar, there is a simple workaround. Cut a circular support piece out of thick cardboard or plastic with a hole in the center. Place this disc over the jar and then set the bulb in the hole. This creates the necessary air gap below the bulb. It is best to use room temperature dechlorinated water. And do not forget to change it regularly, at least once every 2 days. Stagnant water is a direct path to unpleasant smells and rot. Where exactly should we place our hydroponic onion setup? This question leads us directly to the main myth we need to debunk today. Almost everyone assumes onions need the sunniest, south-facing windowsill. That's simply not true. In fact, direct sunlight can actually be detrimental. It encourages the water to bloom, meaning you'll get a growth of green algae in your container. Worse still, it can overheat the bulb itself, which significantly slows down growth. The ideal spot for growing green onions is bright, but not directly sunny. A north or east-facing windowsill is perfect. They only need diffused daylight for the shoots to develop their green colour. Remember, the primary nutrition comes from the bulb itself, not primarily from photosynthesis. Therefore, there's no need to chase scorching direct sun. Another crucial factor is temperature. Onions really dislike heat. The perfect temperature range for feather growth is a cool 15 to 18 degrees Celsius, 59 to 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Because of this, avoid placing your container directly above a hot central heating radiator. A cool windowsill is their ideal habitat. Under these conditions, the shoots might not grow incredibly fast, but they will be strong, juicy, and have a rich, deep colour. Let's discuss common mistakes and how we can prevent them. The most frequent issue people face with the water method is rot and bad odours. This usually happens for 2 reasons. Either the base of the bulb is sitting too deep in the water, or you're forgetting to refresh the supply. The fix is simple. Monitor the water level and make sure you swap it out regularly. If you notice the water turning cloudy or smelling off, act immediately. Take the bulb out, rinse the base and roots under running water, thoroughly clean the jar, and add fresh water. Some people recommend adding a piece of activated charcoal to the water. It genuinely works as an absorbent and helps prevent bacterial growth, so this is a great tip to adopt. The second issue is mold developing directly on the bulb itself. This is usually caused by excessive humidity and poor ventilation. Make sure the area where your bulbs are kept is well ventilated and that no water splashes directly onto the bulb. If the mold is minor and has just appeared, you can gently wipe it away using a cloth moistened with a weak solution of potassium permanganate. Don't ignore these warning signs because maintaining a healthy environment is the secret to a tasty and safe harvest. The moment we've been waiting for is finally here. It's harvest time. How do you properly cut the green onion tops to prolong the life of the bulb and get a second or even third flush of fresh greens? Crucially, never snip all the foliage right down to the base in one go. Doing this severely shocks and exhausts the plant. The best method is to use a selective approach, also known as rotational harvesting. Snip the outer, longest and most mature stalks while leaving the young central shoots to continue their growth. Always use sharp scissors rather than a knife, and be careful not to crush the delicate stems. The optimal height for harvesting is when the greens reach about 15 to 20 centimetres. That's roughly 6 to 8 inches. At this stage, they are at their most succulent and tender. If you let them grow much longer, they can become tough and develop a slightly bitter taste. Once harvested, the bulb redirects its energy towards supporting the remaining stalks and potentially pushing out a fresh set of new growth. Naturally, this cycle can't continue forever. Typically, a single bulb will yield 2 or 3 full, healthy cuttings before its stored nutrients are completely depleted. You'll know the bulb is spent when it starts feeling soft or looks shriveled. That's your sign that it has served its purpose faithfully, and it's time to replace it with a fresh, vibrant, and energetic new one. Let's move on to Method 2, which I've dubbed the substrate surprise. Why the surprise? It's because many people dismiss soil cultivation, viewing it as messy and complex compared to simple water growing. But in reality, this method offers massive benefits. Firstly, the scallions grown in substrate are typically stronger, broader, and significantly more flavorful. This happens because the plant pulls essential micronutrients from the soil, not just relying on the reserves stored in the bulb. Secondly, this approach solves the main drawback of the water method. The risk of rotting and unpleasant smells is practically eliminated, provided you set it up correctly. The substrate naturally provides excellent drainage and necessary aeration for the roots. And thirdly, it's much more aesthetically pleasing, resembling a genuine mini garden right on your windowsill. Plus, you won't have to fuss with daily water changes. While this method requires a little more preparation at the start, long-term maintenance is actually much simpler. It's ideal for anyone looking for a more abundant and higher quality harvest who doesn't mind getting their hands a little dirty. This isn't just forcing green onions. It's practically full-fledged horticulture in miniature. So what kind of substrate should you choose? The first thing that comes to mind is just grabbing some soil from the garden. But for indoor use, that's actually a pretty bad idea. Garden soil's usually too dense. Plus, it can harbour pest larvae, weed seeds, and pathogens that will thrive and multiply rapidly once they hit the warmth of your home. An ideal choice is a store-bought, all-purpose potting mix formulated specifically for seedlings or vegetables. It's light, airy, and usually pre-sterilised. But I want to offer you a few even more interesting options. For example, consider coir or coconut substrate. This usually comes in compressed bricks. When you soak them in water, they expand into a large volume of lightweight, sterile, and highly water-retentive material. Coir offers excellent aeration and resists compaction. Another excellent choice is vermiculite or perlite. These mineral additives can be used on their own or mixed into your regular soil to significantly improve drainage and structure. Finally, for those who love to experiment, here's the most unexpected option: plain wood sawdust or shavings. You'll need to pre-treat them by scalding them with boiling water to sterilise them and ensure they are fully hydrated. Wood shavings are great for holding moisture while still allowing plenty of airflow. The best substrate choice ultimately depends on your preferences, but the main rule of thumb remains the same. It must be airy, highly water retentive, and sterile. The planting container itself is another crucial component. It needs a depth of at least 7 to 10 centimetres. This is enough space to accommodate the drainage layer, the substrate layer, and the bulbs themselves. You can use almost anything as a container. Specialised seedling trays, flower pots, or even standard plastic food containers. The main thing, and this is the absolute golden rule, is that your container must have drainage holes in the bottom. If it doesn't have them, you must make them yourself using a hot nail or an awl. Without proper drainage, your bulbs will inevitably rot, no matter how loose or airy your substrate is. Before adding the soil, always place a drainage layer 1 to 2 centimetres thick at the bottom of the container. This can be expanded clay, a lisse, fine gravel, or even pieces of styrofoam. Drainage prevents water from pooling around the roots and ensures extra aeration. This simple step is your insurance against the most common mistake made when growing in soil. Don't skip this step, and your little bulbs will thank you with an abundant harvest. Now, let's move on to the actual planting process. Fill the container with the prepared substrate, placing it over the drainage layer and leaving about 2 centimetres, or an inch, of space from the top edge. Gently compact the substrate by hand, then moisten it using a spray bottle or a small watering can. The soil should be nice and damp, but certainly not soggy or waterlogged. Bulb preparation mirrors the water method. Select healthy specimens and trim off the tip of the bulb. Now here's the interesting part, the planting technique itself. While you can space the bulbs slightly apart, the most productive method is often called the cobblestone technique. This involves planting the bulbs tightly next to each other, side by side, fitting them together like bricks in a pathway. This maximises the use of your container space and results in a dense, lush forest of green shoots. When you plant, avoid burying the bulb completely. You only need to gently press it into the substrate so that it sits about 1/3 to halfway submerged. The majority of the bulb should remain above the soil surface. This crucial step prevents rotting and ensures excellent air circulation. Once all the bulbs are set, you can give the soil around them one final, light watering. Watering is a fine art. The number one enemy of your onion crop is overwatering. Remember the golden rule, it is always better to slightly underwater than to overwater. Onions grown for greens don't have extensive root systems, so they simply cannot absorb huge amounts of moisture. Excess water leads to soggy soil conditions, causing the roots and the base of the bulb to rot. So how do you know when it is time to water? Use the finger test. Insert your finger into the soil about 1/2 inch deep. If the soil feels dry there, it is time to water. If it feels moist, wait another day or 2. Water carefully, aiming for the base, and try not to get water directly onto the onion bulbs themselves. Use a watering can with a thin spout, or even a simple bulb baster or syringe. The water should be room temperature and allowed to sit out, dechlorinated, beforehand. How often you water depends on the temperature and humidity levels in your home. On average, this might be every 3 to 5 days. Over time, you will learn to sense the needs of your mini garden. The key takeaway? No swamp conditions in the container. Aim only for moderate, consistent moisture. Alright, let's wrap things up and compare the water-based and substrate or soil methods. The water method is the undisputed champion when it comes to simplicity and visibility. It requires virtually no investment beyond the bulb itself, and it allows you to observe the entire process from start to finish. This makes it the perfect option for beginners, for simple activities with kids, or for anyone extremely short on space. However, it does require more frequent maintenance, specifically changing the water, and it carries the risk of developing odours and rot. The substrate method, on the other hand, requires a bit of initial prep, mainly buying soil and a container, but it rewards you with a much more abundant, robust and flavourful harvest. Green onions grown in soil are often juicier, and they store better after being cut. Maintenance for this method is limited to occasional watering, which is generally easier than daily water changes. Plus, a little patch of soil on your windowsill just looks incredibly cosy. Which method you choose is totally up to you. I'd recommend trying both to figure out what works best for your specific needs. Or perhaps you'll end up like me, using both methods simultaneously for different purposes. Now for the third method, the most unusual and counterintuitive one. I call it the dark night. This technique uses darkness as our primary ally, which seems paradoxical since we're used to plants needing light. But that is precisely where its genius lies. This entire process is based on a phenomenon botanists call etiolation. When a plant is kept in complete darkness, it doesn't waste energy producing chlorophyll, the pigment that makes leaves green. Instead, it pours all its resources into one goal, stretching out as quickly as possible in search of a hypothetical light source. The result is stunning. We get extremely long, tender, fragile shoots, pale yellow or light green in colour. Flavour-wise, they are far more delicate and sweet, with virtually no bitterness. This is a true delicacy, highly prized in certain global cuisines. This method is perfect for anyone who loves to experiment and wants a product with truly unique characteristics. It demands a little extra care, but the final outcome is absolutely worth it. You're not just growing standard green onions here. You're cultivating something refined and exquisite, all thanks to a small scientific trick. So, how exactly do we implement the dark night method? For this, you'll need a deep container, at least 15 to 20 centimetres high. This could be a tall flower pot, a small plastic bucket, or even a 5-litre bottle with the top cut off. The planting technique is the same as the standard substrate method. First, lay drainage material at the bottom, and then add moist, loose substrate. Prepare the bulbs the standard way by trimming the tips off. Plant them tightly together using the bridge method, sinking them about halfway down, and this is where the magic begins. Once planted, we need to create complete, absolute darkness for our onions. To do this, you need to cover the container with something opaque. A black garbage bag is perfect. You can simply wrap it around the top. Alternatively, you can cover it with another container of the same diameter or a cardboard box. The main thing is to completely block all access to light. After that, we move our setup to a warm location. In this case, we don't need a windowsill. Any spot in the room will work perfectly fine. Temperature is key. The warmer it is, the faster the growth will proceed. Hidden within the darkness of our setup, some truly amazing things start to take place. Deprived of light, the onion bulb thinks it's still buried deep underground and must urgently push its way to the surface. Tapping into all its stored energy reserves, it sends the shoots rocketing upwards. Since photosynthesis can't take place, the shoots don't waste energy synthesizing chlorophyll, which is what normally makes them green. Instead, they emerge pale, but are incredibly long and grow at an astonishing rate. Your only job during this stage is to occasionally, perhaps once every few days, peel back the covering just to check the moisture level of the substrate and give it a slight watering if needed. But be sure to do this quickly so that the onion doesn't receive any unnecessary light exposure. This confinement period, or dark phase, typically lasts about 7 to 10 days. You'll know it's time to move to the next step once the shoots have stretched to a height of 10 to 15 centimetres. They will look unusual, fragile, pale, and almost white. Don't worry, this is precisely the result we were aiming for. This is the intermediate stage of our cunning plan. It's time for the great reveal. Once our pale shoots have reached the perfect length, we remove the opaque covering from the container and expose them to the light. And once again, there's no need for a bright, south-facing windowsill. Simple, ambient light from a north or east-facing window is all you require. Now prepare to witness a true miracle. In literally just 1 or 2 days, the exposure to light will trigger chlorophyll production in the shoots. Watch as those pale yellow sprouts begin to transform right before your eyes, shifting to a gentle lime green, and then settling into a vibrant light green shade. It is an incredibly beautiful and quick transformation. While the shoots won't actively grow much longer now, they will begin to thicken and gain significant strength. The final product combines 2 key advantages: the length and rapid growth achieved in the darkness, and the delicate flavour and perfect colour gained from the light. These green onion shoots are perfect for salads, because their subtle taste won't overwhelm the other ingredients. This is your own little chef's secret, grown right on your windowsill. What makes this method so effective, and what is the key difference? A standard onion grown in daylight uses a significant amount of energy on photosynthesis and maintaining the rigid structure of its greens. The onion grown in the dark, however, directs all that energy purely into rapid growth. Think of it like a sprinter pushing their limits over a short distance. Consequently, we harvest the crop much faster than with traditional methods. Furthermore, the texture of the greens is completely transformed. They are much more succulent, wonderfully crisp, and completely free of those tough, stringy fibres. If you compare standard green onions to sturdy celery, etiolated onions are closer to tender butter lettuce. Of course, there is one drawback. They won't be as intensely green or flavourful as their sun-grown counterparts. But achieving that rich colour isn't the point. Its true goal is tenderness, rapid growth, and a uniquely mild flavour. This technique proves that by simply understanding and harnessing the laws of nature, we can manage plant growth and achieve dramatically different results in the exact same indoor setup, all without needing any specialised grow lights. Let's quickly review the dark night method sequence one last time to ensure everything is crystal clear. Step 1. Grab a deep container that has proper drainage holes. Step 2. Add a layer of drainage material, followed by moist, loose substrate. Step 3. Plant the prepared bulbs tightly, shoulder to shoulder, burying them about halfway into the soil. Step 4. Create complete darkness by covering the container with a black bag or a box. Step 5. Place the entire setup in a warm location for 7 to 10 days, making sure to check the moisture levels periodically. Step 6. Once the shoots have grown to 10 to 15 centimeters long, remove the cover. Step 7. Move the container to a bright windowsill, ensuring it avoids direct sunlight. Step 8. Over the next 1 or 2 days, watch as the greens turn a vibrant green colour. Step 9. Harvest your tender gourmet greens and enjoy. This entire process is simple, but strict adherence to the steps is key. Give it a try. I guarantee you will be thrilled with the results of this unique gardening experiment. It is a fantastic way to surprise your family and add something fresh and interesting to your meals. Finally, here are a few general tips that will come in handy, no matter which growing method you choose. First, don't be afraid to experiment with different onion varieties. The common yellow onion is the classic choice, but definitely try planting shallots. They produce finer, more delicate greens, and you'll get a whole cluster of usable foliage from just one small bulb. Red onions work well too. Their greens often have a beautiful purple hue right at the base. Secondly, remember the principle of succession planting. Don't plant all the bulbs you have at once. Plant a few today, a few more next week, and continue this way. This ensures you'll always have fresh greens ready at various stages of maturity. As one batch finishes up, the next batch is already growing strong. Thirdly, never use mushy, soft or rotten bulbs for forcing greens, hoping to save them. Nothing good will come of it. You'll just waste your time and risk introducing mould or disease into your container. Stick to quality starting material only. And the most important tip of all, enjoy the process. Your tiny windowsill garden is more than just a source of vitamins. It's a wonderful stress reliever, especially on those gloomy winter days. All right, let's wrap things up. Today, we successfully busted the myth about needing expensive grow lights and covered 3 fantastic ways to get fresh green onions right here at home. First up is the water classic, the simple, straightforward and completely free method we've all known since we were kids. The second is the substrate surprise, ideal for those who want a bigger, more vigorous harvest and don't mind getting their hands a little dirty. And the third is the dark night, a sneaky and unusual technique perfect for gourmets and experimenters, yielding super tender, delicate shoots in record time. As you can see, having fresh greens on your table doesn't require expensive gadgets or complicated technology. All you need is ingenuity, a little patience, and knowledge of the simple laws of nature. I hope this video was helpful, and that you'll definitely give one of these methods a try. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new interesting videos. Now, for a question for you. Which green onion growing method do you use? Or maybe you have your own personal family secret? Let me know in the comments below. I'd be incredibly interested to read about your experiences. Until next time.